Missed opportunities feels a bit generous to describe the Mariners tonight. Botched opportunities feels more appropriate. It was a sloppy game against a team that you just cannot play sloppy baseball against. We'll talk about it coming up here on the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Wednesday, April 24th, 2024. This is Titan Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners postgame show brought to you by PrizePicks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. It's all lowercase for a first deposit match up to $100. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. The Mariners dropped game 2 of their series with the Rangers by a score of 5-1 tonight. They'll look for the series win tomorrow afternoon. And of course, we'll have a post-game show for you as well after that one. You can catch all the action, of course, on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. All you have to do is search Mariners. Sloppy game for the Mariners tonight in all three phases. They missed some opportunities offensively. They played some pretty sloppy defense. Bryce Miller not sharp tonight, just goes to 4 innings, gives up 2 earned runs, back-to-back homers to Adolis Garcia and Evan Carter. What'd you see out of Bryce tonight, Colby?
Yeah, he wasn't good. Simply put, it was a struggle from the get-go. He got pretty well battered around the ballpark tonight. You look at pretty much whatever statistic you want. He walked 4 guys. He gave up 2 home runs. He gave up, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 or 10 hard hit balls in only 4 innings. He was just not sharp tonight. So that's an unfortunate, really his first poor start of the year. So that was quite unfortunate. He gives up his first extra base hit on the splitter the entire year. He also gives up the home run on the sinker. 39 swings, 8 whiffs. It's not a great ratio. Only 10 called strikes. So it was just not a great night for Bryce. So 83 pitches, 49 strikes. Again, the 4 walks. It was clear pretty early on that Bryce was not working, his normal control and command. And even in the first couple innings where he was getting away with things, the splitter was elevated quite a bit. It was in the middle of the plate. And the fastball, he was really struggling to find that top line of the strike zone to live up there like he likes to. So, it was pretty clear early on that Bryce just wasn't going to have it tonight. There was an interesting decision point that needed to be made about Miller only going 4 innings, and he was at 78 pitches at the time. Do you put him back out there knowing that the odds are that he's going to get hit hard as he tires? And do you try to save your bullpen? Because we talked about this the other day. You got, 52 games in 55 days. So do you do that and try and save your bullpen? Or do you try and squeeze an extra out or 2 out of Miller? And we know that in the past, Scott's opted for that, and it's more or less almost always had disastrous results. So this time he kind of wanted him to face the righty. He walks Semien on 4 pitches and his day is done. So Bryce just wasn't good tonight. It wasn't sharp. It was, I'd say 40 control, 30 command. It was just not a good night for Miller, and kind of his first dud start of the season. Quite fortunate to only give up the 2 earned runs in this game because he was not as good as his very, poor stat line would even suggest. So disappointing step back for Miller, but it's a good lineup. And if you're not going to have, your good command and control along with your good stuff, you're going to struggle against this lineup. So the fact that he battled and got through 4 and only gave up a couple, if you want your silver lining, there it is. But he just was not very good tonight.
No, and it only felt like a matter of time, especially once we got to the second turn of the order. He gave up a ton of hard contact the first time through the order. He did have quite a few strikeouts, but whenever the Rangers were able to make contact, you think about that second inning, the couple of fly balls there, the one with Langford where he got tripped up, that was 102 off the bat. Then the Heim fly out to left field, I believe it was Heim, was 97, 98, something like that off of the bat. And then, once Semyon, Seager, Garcia come up, and he still hasn't really found the command, found the control. You gotta feel pretty uneasy about that. And unfortunately, when it came to Garcia and Carter, they were able to get to him, and that pitch count just continued to go up, and he just wasn't able to give you a competitive enough start tonight, and that kind of set things in motion for how the rest of this game went. We're going to talk a little bit about this offense and more in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Monopoly Go and PrizePicks. I'm a very competitive person, and my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. But if not, it's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties just like classic Monopoly, but now I can also rob their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. Spring training is over and baseball season is in full swing. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBI, or first inning runs, take your pick more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. You can also get in on the basketball playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a whole new level during the postseason. Download PrizePicks today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Thank you again for making us your first listen after the Mariners 5-1 loss to the Texas Rangers. The Mariners and the Rangers have one more game to go tomorrow afternoon. You can catch every pitch on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. All you have to do is search Mariners. So let's talk a little bit about this Mariners offense. They struck out 14 times tonight. It was not a good effort. They did have quite a few opportunities, just couldn't push any runs across the plate except for in the first inning after Josh Rojas's leadoff triple. But this team was also playing, of course, without JP Crawford and Cal Raleigh. We'll get to those guys a little later on in this show, as well as Corey Seager, who was not able to finish this game for the Rangers. But overall, what did you think about the offense tonight?
Yeah, it was equally as bad as the pitching. Seattle lost this game multiple times in the middle of the innings. I mean, John Gray gave up 7 hits in 4 2/3. He was not very good tonight, but the Mariners just couldn't put enough consistent contact together. You look at what they had a 42.9% hard hit rate tonight, which is really good, but they struck out 14 times. So that kind of counteracts it, and they only walked twice. It's been kind of a continuing trend with Julio. Yesterday he hits the first home run. Today he strikes out 3 times, right? It's kind of a 1 step forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's been a very, start-stop season for Julio so far. And he's 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. You're not going to win a lot of games, particularly when you don't have Cal Raleigh to kind of clean up that mess, and you don't have JP Crawford to kind of help out here. Rojas did his part tonight. Again, another 2-hit effort for Rojas, who is continuing to probably be the Mariners' best overall player, at least offensively, in terms of position players for the first 24 games of the season. So Rojas continues to be really important here. Mitch Haniger had, a pretty rough night. It gets a little bit more credit than it needs to. He did have a double. He did have an RBI. But his at-bats are looking worse and worse progressively the further we get into the season.
He needs a full day off. I know he kind of got like half a day off on Sunday, but he needs a full day off.
Right, and with a lefty tomorrow, that doesn't seem like they're going to do that. But he's played the field a lot too. So like I think he's got 2 DH days even, and he's played in, I think 22 of the 24 games. This is the concern we talk about, where it's like, yes, you want him in the lineup because he's hitting well. He's been one of your better hitters this year, but the more you play him, the more worn down he becomes. Not only are you leaving yourself susceptible to some kind of nagging soft tissue injury, but you're also wearing down a body and, the bat speed that Haniger needs to be successful. And right now you're seeing him pretty much try and wrap his bat around everything and yank it into left field. He's not using the whole field like he was at the beginning of the year. He's not driving the ball to right center field with much consistency right now. I mean, they're giving him a base hit anytime he wants it. The second baseman is practically playing behind second base. All he has to do is take one of the 50 sliders he's going to see on any given night and just guide it through that hole. And he's not even trying. He's trying to yank everything. He's trying to pull everything. It looks awful. And, because I'm a guy who will criticize like fan favorite Mariners and I get a lot of blowback from that. Let me just cut you off at the pass right here. Yeah, Luke Raley's struggling. Yeah, Mitch Garver's struggling too. Yeah, Mitch Haniger has been one of your better hitters so far this year. It doesn't mean he's not struggling right now. And we even saw it leak into the field tonight as well. So Haniger is a guy who looks like he is just in dire need of days off. And you didn't take advantage of that when you had the built-in days off, in addition to just giving him rest. You kind of ran him into the ground, and now you have 50 games in 53 days or whatever it is. You're going to have to pay the piper at some point with Haniger, and it kind of looks like that's where we're headed right now. So the offense wasn't good really at all tonight outside of a few guys. Josh Rojas had a good night at the plate. Ty France had a pretty good night at the plate. Dylan Moore had a pretty good night at the plate, filling in for JP Crawford. So, the offense overall, they hit the ball plenty. They hit the ball plenty hard enough. They did get, 8 hits, but 7 of those came off of Gray. They only had 1 hit after Gray left the game. And it was in the 9th inning when the game was truly over. So they only drew 2 walks. There was 1 extra base hit. Like, it's not good enough. This offense was bad tonight, and it was pretty painful to watch John Gray kind of carve you up when you know that Gray, A, isn't all that great of a pitcher, and B, his game plan was extremely simple, and everybody had it figured out by the first inning, and literally nothing changed. They still suck. So awful night for the offense.
Yeah, they saw a lot of breaking balls tonight across the board. Gray wasn't particularly good, but he's one of those guys that has really good stuff and therefore can be, effectively wild in a way, but they still needed to take advantage of the opportunities that he gave them more so than they did tonight. Mitch Garver continues to really struggle. He had 1 hard hit ball tonight, but I believe he struck out twice tonight. Once tonight. What are you seeing out of Garver right now? Why is he not finding grass at the moment or even making consistent contact at the moment?
Yeah, Garver is one of those guys who is kind of in the Julio mold right now, where just when it looks like he's about to kind of break through, he stacks a couple bad games on top of each other, and then he's kind of got to rebuild, right? He's got to rebuild what he started to do. And so hits home run the other day. People are excited. He's been hitting the ball hard prior to that. And it's like, okay, now he's broken through. Now we can see the real Mitch Garver. And then he immediately comes back and he has a couple of disappointing games. Now, again, he has had a couple balls hit hard in the series. Both of them, I believe, had over 400 expected batting average, but neither of them fell. And that's just kind of stacking on top of when you're struggling, even when you do something well, like hit the ball hard, which is the whole goal of, hitting is to just hit the ball hard and good things will typically happen. He's not getting paid off for that right now. So it does look, he isn't taking as many bad swings. It doesn't look like he's chasing nearly as much as he was a couple weeks ago. So those are positive signs, but ultimately you got to start finding hits. And if you're Garver in particular, you got to start finding some extra base hits. Like you're here to hit for some power and some average. So, it's a bit unfortunate that he's gotten off to the start that he has. It would really be great if you felt like, this is a guy that could hit 3 on a night like tonight when your lineup is down 2 of its best players, and he's just not at that space right now. So the at-bats are looking better, but we're getting to the point now where results are really what matter. And obviously, they're not going to bench Garver for significant periods of time. They need him. So they're going to give him opportunities to kind of climb out of this. But there's no denying it's been a really slow start. Lefty on the mound tomorrow. That should help, assuming he's in the lineup, which I think he should be, but whatever. So we'll see. But the at-bats are getting a little bit better. He has had some bad BABIP luck, but overall, he's just been very disappointing. And he needs to kind of get back to what he was last year, and that is crushing the fastball and then managing against sliders and breaking balls. And right now, he's not even handling the fastball. He's not seeing a ton of them, but he's not handling them when he gets them.
3 Ks tonight for Julio as well. A couple of them looking not a good night for Julio. Just not a good night for the offense across the board. Hopefully they're able to bounce back tomorrow like they were able to in Game 2 on Sunday after the rough performance in Game 1 against the Rockies. Hopefully we can see a little bit of a repeat of that. So like you mentioned, Mariners without JP Crawford and Cal Raleigh tonight. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by DoorDash. Want to make mom smile? Start Mother's Day with flowers or surprise her with gifts from the brand she loves delivered the very same day with DoorDash. Does mom have a sweet tooth? Is she a tech enthusiast? A beauty connoisseur? Or is she outdoorsy? No matter what she's into, you can make her smile with a fruit or flower bouquet, makeup, tech gear, workout wear, and a whole lot more. Shop with savings that would make her proud. With a Dash Pass membership, you'll save with a $0 delivery fee and reduce service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees, including service fee and terms apply. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order, now with promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Locked On MLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Thank you again for making us your first listen after the Mariners 5-1 loss to the Texas Rangers. Again, the Mariners and Rangers rubber match. You can catch all the action on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. All you have to do is search Mariners to find that. So JP Crawford missed this game. He was scratched from the lineup with right oblique soreness. It's something that apparently cropped up during batting practice, and the Mariners are waiting to get him an MRI and then assess the damage after that. So I don't expect him to be in the lineup tomorrow. Cal Raleigh played through a broken tooth last night, which is pretty remarkable considering how good of a night he had last night. And he's about 50-50 to go tomorrow, though they did pinch hit Jonathan Clase for Sebi Zavala tonight on the off chance that maybe they would be able to get back into this game. And in the event that they did, I would assume that they were going to roll with Raleigh to catch tonight had that happen. Now, that was kind of a long shot, right, for them to get back in this game. So maybe they weren't necessarily banking on that. But again, that seems to indicate that maybe Raleigh is at least good to go in a break glass in case of emergency type of situation. We'll see if he's able to play tomorrow.
They also could have just thrown Garver back there for half an inning if they needed to.
It's true too. Any thoughts on those injuries before we get into Texas's side of the injury report?
Yeah, obviously JP's is much more worrisome than Cal's. Cal, it sounds like if he's not in there tomorrow, he'll be back on Friday for that series. So, having to go with your poorly hitting backup catcher 2 out of 3 times in a 3-game set against a division rival, not ideal, but certainly not, the death nail to the season. So, you just kind of roll with it. Cal's long-term health, you want this guy to be available to you. Now, tooth, we don't know the extent of it, broken tooth, whatever, maybe a wisdom tooth. I don't know exactly what it was, but either way, he's 50-50 tomorrow already. They're saying that. So non-zero chance he plays, but you think with a lefty on the mound, they might just, in emergency, you can play. Late pinch hitting opportunities, maybe, but we'll just roll with Sebi. We'll make sure that you're, 100% or as close as we can get for Friday when we go back home. So that's not really a huge deal. It's a bummer because Cal's on fire right now, but it is what it is. This is part of the baseball season. You just have to deal with things like this. JP's is obviously much more serious. Right oblique. That's obviously not great. Throws right-handed. It's his lead arm with or it's his lead side when he's swinging. So not ideal. Oblique injuries typically aren't something that pop up and then they're fine the next day. And when they do occur, they're usually a month, like at least. So can this team survive for a month without JP Crawford? I mean, Dylan Moore did a nice job tonight, but we've seen Dylan Moore get overexposed and what happens when he plays pretty much every day. So, I doubt he'll be in the lineup tomorrow. Interesting little thing happening in Tacoma. Leo Rivas was lifted pretty early in that game. While Ryan Bliss is kind of the obvious answer to this problem, if there is an extended IL stint coming for Crawford, Rivas is a guy who, they may look at as a short-term fix. He's a pretty good defender at short. He can make a lot of contact. He runs okay. Like he's Jose Caballero is pretty much what they're hoping he is, minus some of the stolen base chops. But so we'll see if that's just because they wanted to be cautious. We'll see if that's because they don't think Bliss is ready, or maybe they just need a guy just in case. And another guy who could factor in here is Luis Urias. We haven't seen him since he got hit. We haven't gotten any updates, but they haven't put him on the IL. There's a lefty playing tomorrow. In theory, he would start that game. So if it's Rojas tomorrow, then obviously Seattle basically played with a one-man bench tonight if Urias can't play tomorrow. So you can't do that. You just can't, we don't want to miss these guys for 2 weeks, so we're just going to carry 25 players on the roster essentially for a couple series at a time. You have to make that decision. So Urias tomorrow, that'll be a big indicator of how he's doing, obviously, but also Urias is a guy who could play shortstop if you need him to, and that might make the Mariners look at somebody like Samad Taylor or the guys we were talking about basically for Urias the other day. Those are still the same guys who could be in play for Crawford, but I think you add Ryan Bliss and Rivas to that mix. So we'll see what the Rivas thing is. He might just be heading down there, taxi squad, just in case. But he might be the move. Obviously, the Mariners play at, I think, 11 Pacific time tomorrow, 11:10 first pitch. So we will a lot of people will probably wake up to some idea of what, how long JP is going to be out and if they had to make a move. And keep in mind that the Mariners don't have a lot of guys on the 40-man who can play shortstop right now. So this will probably require a 40-man move as well. So we'll see. Hopefully they said they haven't done the MRI yet. That feels fishy to me. That feels like something that should have been done immediately. So we'll see. But yeah, obviously you're much more concerned about JP right now because they don't really have the replacement. And JP's injury is more severe than Cal's. Cal is discomforting, sure, but he's going to play in the next day or two. We know that. Crawford, depending on the severity of the oblique strain, it could be 6 weeks, 2 months. It's really tough to judge with the oblique injury.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, have just seen Colt Emerson land on the IL with an oblique injury as well. So, those things, they're pretty gnarly, especially if they're fairly severe. They can keep you out for quite a while. And we know how much, missing a chunk of the season can impact your entire season on the whole as well. So little bit nervous right now. I can't lie about JP Crawford.
Right when he was starting to kind of figure it out too. He's 7 for his last 20, couple, extra base hits, really using the whole field, drawing walks. Like it looked like JP was starting to kind of come out of it. So terrible timing on that end.
Yeah. So hopefully it's not severe. Hopefully it's something that, he can work through here in the next few days, but we'll see. We'll probably have a better idea of that in the next day or two. On the other side of things, the Rangers might be missing a big bat from their lineup tomorrow as well. Corey Seager left this game tonight with a right shin contusion after being hit by a pitch. So obviously that would be big for the Mariners tomorrow if he misses that game. But, you still got to deal with Semien. You still got to deal with Garcia, etc. They've handled those guys through the first 2 games of the series. Obviously, game 1, they shut those guys down. They were combined, I believe, 0-for-14, if I'm not mistaken. And then tonight, Garcia obviously had the home run, but that top 4 didn't do a ton of damage in this game. So did you want to quickly talk about Logan Gilbert last night? Because he was fantastic. And, the more and more I watch this guy this year and how dynamic his arsenal is, I can't help but think like this looks like a Cy Young caliber pitcher right now.
Yeah, the impressive part about last night's game is that he wasn't even didn't even really have like his best stuff. And for the first couple innings, really didn't have even average control and command. Like he was really fighting through that outing early, and then he just kind of figured it out. He never found the splitter, which is kind of been his go-to pitch. And when you're facing the number of lefties that Texas can throw at you, that splitter could be a pretty valuable pitch. But he never found it. Never really had a good feel for it. He threw 10 of them. He only got 1 strike on that. It was no whiffs. So he never really found it. But the fastball, he was able to kind of dial that in a little bit. But the big pitch yesterday was the cutter and the slider. Those 2 pitches, he threw them about equal. The slider, he got 5 whiffs on 10 swings, also 3 called strikes, 42% called strike plus whiff. The cutter, interestingly enough, 9 swings, 3 whiffs, 2 called strikes. So that's a pretty good ratio as well. For that pitch, he threw it a lot. Average exit velo 86.9 miles an hour. So when you look at what Logan did yesterday without his best stuff and without his best command, to hold that lineup in Texas, a ballpark where they are essentially built to mash every single night, that's really impressive, and it speaks to the evolution of Logan Gilbert as the pitcher. Because in the past, if he didn't have his fastball, or he didn't have one of his breaking balls, like he was toast. He was just, please get through 5, 4 or less. And now, even when the game plan goes awry early, he's able to adapt and change. And we know Gilbert is a grinder. We know that he is a tinkerer. We know that he is a guy who, puts a lot of effort and time and thought. Like, this is very important to Logan. He puts in a lot of work that we'll never see, and a lot of work that we do see. And his evolution as a pitcher has been really, really fun to watch. And it certainly does seem like we're seeing the next stage of Logan's career. And it feels like we've taken that step every year of his career. But this is kind of he's reaching the part where we thought he could eventually get to, which is that number 2 starter, maybe a number 1 some days, and finding a way to manage a really good lineup when you don't even have your best stuff. That's a really valuable skill, and something that, is typically reserved for number 2s, number 1s, and aces. Like that's not something a number 3 starter can do with regularity.
Especially when you're doing it against this caliber of a lineup too.
Right. Particularly in Texas.
Absolutely.
Like they're a different team. They're a different team in that ballpark than they are away from it. So to shut them down with what I would say 45 command and stuff yesterday is frankly ridiculous, and very nearly went 7 full innings.
Yeah. All right. So we are going to catch you guys after the game tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. That's going to do it for our show for tonight, though. Before we get out of here, a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners postgame show. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Dan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Dan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen after the game. Have yourself a beautiful baseball evening, and we'll see you next time. Peace.